host, and we're doing another live stream chat on the lake. So, hope you're all doing well. Let me get my device rotation figured out here, and we'll see how many people we get to arrive tonight. Does not want to rotate. I guess we'll go porch landscape for now. All right. Hello, Uncle Al. How you doing? Got my setup figured out a little bit, so I should be able to chat while moving around a little bit. But I just felt like having a little bit of live stream while I was out here. Do a little bit of double tasking and get to talk with you guys a little bit, see what you're thinking about lately. Let me know when you get in here if you can hear me. Hopefully my audio is doing all right. But just having a decent little Friday night here, and thought I'd see what kind of prepping topics you guys are interested in lately. I've been thinking about water a lot. That's something I wanted to talk about, so I figured this would be a pretty fitting situation. Hey there, Uncle Al. Can you hear me all right? How's my audio? Can you hear me, Uncle Al? All right, thanks for that. Good to hear that the audio is good. How's the day treating you, Uncle Al? Hello, Terry. How are you doing tonight? We're just having a little bit of a live stream on the lake and just chatting, whatever you guys have to talk about. My prompt for the night is water. I think that it is one of the most neglected preps in the prepping community. I rarely hear people brag about how much water they have, but they brag about their guns, their knives, their O-lights, their food, which is good, but you're going to die from dehydration long before you're going to die of starvation. And water is not exactly one of the easiest preps. So I like to brag about the fact that I have hundreds of gallons of water, which is not nearly enough. But that's more than a lot of people have. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about their water preps, which is just one indication to me among many that people are lacking the hundreds of gallons of water that they're going to need to survive in any situation. Heaven forbid that your water grid goes down, but that's something that can just happen nowadays without a full societal collapse. I mean, they might find out that your water is contaminated and have to shut it down. Any number of things that can happen in an otherwise benign situation that make it so you just can't get water from your tap anymore, and all the water bottles are gone from the store. So what are you going to do? I can guarantee that in that kind of situation, the police are going to be keeping an eye on lakes like this. So in anything but a full collapse, it's not going to be legal to come and just harvest water from the lake unless they allow it. So just saying, oh, I live near a lake is not enough if it's not a full without rule of law collapse. Because you can bet that in a drought or in a water scarcity situation where your water's been contaminated and they have to shut down the taps or any number of things, a breakage, you can bet that they would police the waterways to make sure that people aren't stealing the king's water. So that's something to keep in consideration, that there are a lot of collapse type situations where you may not actually be allowed to just go to your lake and pull however much water you want. Especially if that's the same idea that everyone's having. You can bet that it's not just going to be a completely unregulated activity. So definitely something to keep in mind. Now, in a life and death situation, you may just have to make your own decisions and deal with the consequences. But you need to know how you're going to process that water. And let me tell you, you are not going to be using 1 or 5 or 10 microsoyers to process enough water for your family to live with. Maybe enough to provide a rationed water drinking water for everyone, but no, you need to have a considerable amount of water available to you that someone else can't keep you from getting to, and the ability to process it in pretty large quantities, large volume at a quick rate. Hello, living the dream off grid. How you guys doing? But just having that water available to you is not necessarily enough. I mean, maybe a Berkey, maybe some of those really high volume filters, but you need at least a gallon a person per day of just drinking water available. I mean, you need to have that sourced. Now, can you live off of less than 1 gallon if you live in certain places? Sure. Some places you're going to need multiple gallons a day to drink just to survive, especially if you spill some of it, whatever. You need to have a considerable amount of water available to you just for drinking. That's not including washing, which may not need to be quite as good as drinking water, but it needs to be almost as sterile. You need water for cooking. You need water for cleaning household goods like your dishes, like that. You need to know where you're getting all this stuff from. 5 gallons per person per day is a pretty safe starting point to ballpark. The average American, I forget what the number is, but I would not be surprised if it's at least 100 gallons a day just in personal use, not including what is used in the production of their food and things like that. And it takes a lot of water to make a pound of ground beef. Just what you use in a day, washing your hands, any time that you expend water, it's a lot of water. And you're really going to feel that bite whenever you're in a grid down situation. And you want to do whatever you can to alleviate that, because your quality of life will go down considerably without abundant water, let alone whether or not you're going to have enough to not dehydrate. Just enough water to not die is a very unhappy existence. And yes, definitely one of the most, definitely the most important prep. Not much you can do to provide yourself with a constant source of air. If the air goes away, you're sort of screwed, short of being able to survive in a contaminated environment. But my point here being, water is going to kill you faster than anything, a lack of anything besides air. And if you have a lack of air altogether, you're screwed. But you just have to be taking care of the first and most pressing concern that you're ever going to have in any situation. I mean, that right there. What is the most pressing concern that you will have in almost any emergency situation that lasts more than a few hours or a day? Water. Do you have that fully taken care of to a point where it will never be a concern to you, or to where you have decreased the level of concern it may be to you? For most people, that answer is no. So how so many preppers can feel comfortable that they're prepped just because they've bought some MREs, and they've got a gun and some knives and stuff, but they don't know where their next 200 drinks of water are coming from if the tap is off, that's concerning. So water will always be my number one first prep suggestion or topic whenever there's nothing else, because I can source food. You can source food. Food is pretty abundant. Clean drinking water is a rare commodity if someone else isn't taking care of it for you. Let's see. Are we chatting away? Am I missing stuff? I am on Coeur d'Alene, yes. David Carlisle. Hello, everybody. Do I still have a good connection and audio and everything? But yeah, I'm here on Lake Coeur d'Alene in North Idaho. They've got the Coeur d'Alene classic car show going on downtown. I drove through that to get here, but I need to figure out how to pop this chat so it always stays up. Well, what's on your guys' minds? I've discussed water for a few moments. Do you guys have something that you're focusing on particularly? Magic Valley, Idaho. Right on, Terry. That's cool. Have you been to any of the North Idaho meet and greets? But does anybody have something that they are particularly focused on, concerns that they have, holes that they feel they need to take care of in their preps? How many of you have found the last couple of years, obviously everybody in the world has confronted the concept of prepping in some form or another, but as preppers, if all of you were preppers before this all started, before the last year and a half or so, how has this clarified your mission? What glaring deficiencies have you noticed? How has this clarified what you see you need to be doing? Where do you feel that you're lacking? I've always been an advocate of the idea that there's going to be a slow collapse if nothing else comes along. We are the prepping community has always been far too focused on spectacular catastrophes, things that are going to happen and be exciting, something you might make a movie out of. I've always tried to caution people that you will need to be prepared as much for the slow grind down of the system of modern life in the majority of potential situations before we need to worry about, like I said, spectacular events, catastrophes that just upheave your life and change things so suddenly that life is suddenly quite different and somehow magically fits the preps that you've got. The majority of things that might happen are going to involve life staying more or less the same, but becoming incredibly inconvenient. In ways that preps don't necessarily help with. It's going to be a slow collapse. It's going to be inflation until you can't afford anything. And a lot of people don't prep for things just getting so expensive that it becomes difficult to live. People have not been prepped for America becoming a divided third world communist shithole. Are your preps geared up for becoming a third world communist shithole? Because a lot of people are not necessarily prepared for that. And I think that this year, between COVID and a lot of the stuff that's been going on, has got a lot of people realizing it might not necessarily be an instant collapse, snap of the fingers, suddenly the rule of law is gone and the grid is down, but all of the things that we've been preparing for, we can do. There aren't police to stop us from going and collect water from the lake or whatever. But in reality, we are definitely looking at an excessive rule of law, a perverted rule of law kind of situation, and not just a without rule of law situation. So I'm curious how this has clarified things for you guys, not just in what preps are you lacking because you didn't have enough face masks or Clorox wipes or whatever. How has this made you realize that the way that you look at prepping is wrong? That the reality of the situation is much grayer than you ever anticipated, that it's not at all what the people on YouTube told you it would likely be like. It's going to be just an incredibly uncomfortable, Kafka-esque nightmare that you have to somehow navigate and prepare yourself as well as possible to be able to navigate. And your Olight and your MREs and freeze-dried foods and various novelty things, each of which on their own are decent items to have, but this framework of prepping that's built up around those things, around the YouTube imagining prepping community, those things are just the frills the trappings of prepping. Those are not prepping. Prepping is having what you'll need to be able to survive the situation, the things that are most likely to happen in the situations that you're going to face. And I think the events of the past couple of years should have given us some more ideas as the situations and circumstances that we're going to be dealing with. And it's not all just going to be, like I said, the stuff that exciting movies with Gerard Butler starring in them are going to be made of. So what has that shown for you guys? Terry has been canning a lot. Oh, no problem. Living the dream. You guys do your thing. Yeah, I'm Terry. The concept that the government will help you, or really that anybody will help you, and I don't mean that as in other people will help each other, community. I mean as in the idea that there is anybody to look after you but yourself, unless you have someone who will look after you, like a husband or a partner or a parent or things like that, is foolish. There is nobody out there to save you except for yourself when the reality really comes down to it. Society tells us that, teaches us that there's a safety net. And there is for many things, as long as society is there to provide it for you. But people don't necessarily have a concept that there is an ugly abyss under society that you can fall right into. And with the things we're doing in society today, we are playing very dangerously with that abyss. And government will not save us. In fact, government is doing exactly the things that history tells us sends you into that abyss. So no, government will not save you. Government didn't bring anybody toilet paper. Government didn't save anybody truly who lost their job or had their job taken from them by COVID. Government will not be there to save you. And unless you have built the reliance with the people who you think will be there to save you, church members, family members, close friends, they will not be there to save you unless you're incredibly lucky. And I think that this year has done gangbusters to wake people up to that fact, to the fact that not only is government not going to help you, they are going to be one of the greatest detriments that you can have. I think we can almost all agree that the next time we have a pandemic, let's just try doing nothing about it. Because I, for one, fully agree with just acting like, just trying to ignore the pandemics, no matter how loud they try to get. Because this has been stupid. And especially what the government did, it's as if they found out the worst possible thing they could do in every single given situation. Ooh. You guys probably didn't see that, but I believe a fish just jumped up ahead of us. But it's true that the 9 scariest words in the English language is, I'm with the government, I'm here to help. And I'm here to help. I think that's 9 words. You get the gist. Yeah, I will be staying as far away as I can from the government, Cast. Yeah, I actually meant to get my my emergency fishing kit that I got from Lord Humongous over on, what's his actual channel's name? Somebody help me here. Rule the Wasteland. The Lord Humongous. He made these cool little fishing tins, and I've yet to try mine out. I just got my license the other day. And to be honest, I was in such a hurry to get out here before it started dusking like it is right now that I decided to just grab my live streaming equipment and talk to you guys instead. But I imagine sometime in the near future we'll be having some survival fishing on a kayak podcast, live stream type things going on here. Might be fun. All right, well, I'll be calling you tomorrow there, Jeremy. All right, I'll catch you later. I got the next couple off, so I'll be talking to you. Have yourself a good evening, man. Woo, I am in some wake here. Let's hold. That's better. So yes, suffice it to say that, yep, all right, I'll catch you later, man. You have a good one. Good seeing you on here. Suffice it to say that this year should have done a lot to show you that not only won't the government help you, they will be a hindrance. Many of your fellow people will be not only a hindrance, but an outright danger. Just an outright active danger. And I don't say that to be inflammatory or anything like that. But I think we need to come to terms with the fact that many of our fellow citizens have been completely brainwashed. And not just brainwashed, but had their psyche and their fortitude undermined to the point where they truly are NPCs. We live in a clown timeline, people. And if you think that the mask debate, if you think that all of this bullshit will not translate into the worst possible kinds of interactions when we're in a grid down type situation, I don't know that we'll be able to communicate properly, because this has just been an expose on what happens to a society when, well, insert your problem with society here, because the breakdown is real. And the results from that, whenever we're in that kind of situation, are going to be very, very ugly. And I think that's another lesson to have learned from this year. So far from what prep should I have, far from which thing should I be buying, I hope that this year has also given you a little bit of insight into your outlook, your mindset on prepping, on the world, on what kind of baseline you think you exist inside of. Because I think a lot of people are waking up to the realization that society is not what they thought it was, that a lot of their fellow people are not who they thought they were. I don't think I'm being at all hyperbolic or dramatic when I say that I know what it feels like to watch your country turn into something from the history books. And it's time to start dusting off your lessons from those history books and realizing that you are now one of those people that had to deal with those things, had to make those decisions, and hell, who might end up in history books just because of not necessarily any dramatic or noteworthy actions, but just because we are in one of those points in history where shit gets real. I don't know how anyone could not be feeling that. And on that note, as a prepper, getting real effing serious. If you don't see the defecation approaching the oscillation at this point, then you may well be LARPing at this. Just as surely as I'm going in circles here on this lake. What do you guys got to say? For some reason, my chat just will not stay popped up here. Where are we? There we are. Nope, there we are not. Top chat, come on. Oh, pretty quiet in the chat tonight. That's all right. I assume you guys are just enjoying the sweet visuals Well, let's see. Further discussion. Fitness. I'd say fitness is much higher on the list of important preps than most people place it as. And that is metabolic fitness. How much you eat, what you eat. Yes. Well, yes, I'm more than happy to provide ASMR doom speak. And I'm not trying to be black pill here. I'm not trying to be all doom and gloomy. That's just my perhaps somewhat pessimistic realism. I think that there's a lot that we individually can do. I don't think that all is lost. I think that we are way down the rabbit hole and far down an icy slope. And I don't necessarily know that this next statement is very accurate, but sometimes I really do wonder if this stupidity might all collapse on itself one day. I mean, I truly believe that the vast majority of America are rational people who agree on the vast majority of things to a great degree. Most people, if you really look at it, have a pretty similar morality and sense of ethics. If you get rid of the more fringe and extreme discussion points in any given topic, most people agree almost all the way. It's when you get into the minutia, into small bits that are important to some, but not to the vast majority, that's when you start having all this divisiveness. Most people think murder is wrong. Most people of all ideologies think that murder is wrong. And that's a pretty broad scope. But I truly believe that the vast majority of Americans want things to more or less be like they used to be. And I think that there's a lot of, man, those guys are they, I can't tell if they're playing or not. You guys probably can't see them, but there's a bald eagle chasing. Yeah, that's not another bald eagle. I believe that there may be some kind of contention going on between these two raptors here. Huh. Well, that's completely derailed my conversation. Oh yeah, he's swooping. Yeah, you guys probably cannot see him at all. I believe that things can go back to normal. I believe that's possible. You know, we're just living in an episode of Black Mirror, and then whatever ancient totem somebody unburied is going to get buried again, and everybody will become sane again, and things will be fine. I don't think that's very likely, but I am not a fatalist to the degree that I believe all is bad and all is lost. I mostly believe that, but I do believe that there's a lot that we individually can do, not just for the broad scope of things, but for our scope of things. And coincidentally, if everyone does that, the broad scope starts coming into picture. Building, I don't mean not building community, but being community. It's probably just partly as I get older, but the importance of an individual to the people around them becomes more and more clear to me lately. And as corny as it is, I do adhere to be the change that you want to see. Nobody else is going to do it for you, and if you don't do it, there's no reason to expect that anybody else is going to. That goes for political involvement. That goes for being prepared. That goes for pretty much anything that you want to see in the world. You want to see kids be smarter. You want to see people be more capable, why don't you teach a young person how to change a tire? Why don't you start offering weekend classes for just some basic stuff like home ec? I get real tired of people bashing on generations who were basically screwed by their parents and thinking that they have not contributed in any way to the societal decline as they sat on their armchair watching NFL for the past 40 years. Be a Boy Scout leader or whatever. Don't be that, but be a youth mentor, perform service to elderly people. If you're not a Christian, find some framework where you can abide by traditional values and be that in the community, because guess what? There's a reason that those existed. They actually were holding everything together, it turns out. Maybe not organized religion per se, although there is a very important place for organized religion in society. But traditionalism, there's a lot of stuff that was working for us pretty damn well for millennia until pretty recently. And I don't think it's just pure happenstance that things started to fall apart right when we started fucking with it all. Just some opinions. Pardon me while I take a sip here. And I'll probably be wrapping it up for too long. It's going to get a little too dark for the camera pretty rapidly, shortly. But suffice it to say, things are a little messed up. I think in some ways they're not nearly as messed up as they look. I think that availability bias is at play. By that I mean the loudest damn people are the ones you hear. And we live in a time of problematization where people want to focus on the problems and only the problem, not to the degree of creating solutions, but just on the fact that there's a problem. And when that's, ooh, that guy jumped about just right there. He was big. I saw a guy pull a 14-inch pike, not out of this lake, but one of the other ones yesterday. Damn animals keep derailing my conversation. Things are messed up, but there are things that we can do. I contemplate a lot on what I can do. I think that the lack of a father figure, if not at least a father, the lack of competent male figures to look up to is a major factor and female figures. Like, unequivocally, our society is being destroyed by the fact that people are not raising kids anymore. They're literally raising kids to be as incapable in every level, not just incapable in the form of, I can't balance a book, I can't change a car tire. I mean incapable in the sense that they have no ability to face a problem. Parents never just stood there and watched them struggle as a child, so that they'd have that sense of how to react to struggle, to not have to look around for help as the first reaction to a roadblock. But that's what you see. I mean, I never realized that was a thing that you obtained, but it is. It is a thing that you instill in people to have their natural reaction to adversity be to face it and not to seek for the helping hand. You destroy a child, not irreparably, but you really do a number on them whenever you help them too much. Helicopter parenting, snowplow parenting, is another thing that has destroyed our society. And that's something that everybody can do something about. Find yourself a young person and empower them. That's actually a pretty good prep, to tell you the truth. You know, it's really great to have around in an emergency situation an energetic young person who's devoted to your goal. That's actually one of the world's greatest resources. So that's something that I think about lately, is how to empower and influence young people, because they're our future. And you can either, just completely abandon the chances of that future by just leaving young people to be whatever the heck they're being nowadays. Or you can find the few who, one of the things that does make me truly sad is when this damn microphone keeps falling. One of the things that makes me sad is when I'm in YouTube comments and I see a comment from a young person. I watch a lot of Jordan Peterson videos, just background listening to him. It's great stuff. And you see comments in his videos and various other channels from young people lamenting how difficult it is to be trying, to be deliberate, to be someone who actually cares in this world and who is young and who doesn't have direction. There is a severe lack of good leadership figures for young people these days compared to when many of us older individuals were growing up. I had great Boy Scout leaders, great church leaders, great parents, and the availability of that compared to, a couple decades ago when I was growing up, let alone when some of you were growing up, the availability has gone down quite a bit. And so you just can't expect the same things out of people who didn't have that much available to them to learn from and to equip them. And it sure would be ugly to end up in an emergency situation where there are no capable young people around you. So it seems like a valuable prep to empower some of them. You as well, Terry, thank you. But anyways, it is darkening to the point where my camera will not be focusing pretty soon. So I'm going to head back on over to the dock here and bid you all a fond farewell soon. But I hope it's been interesting. I hope if you are listening through on the rewatch, that has not been too rambling for you. I'll be putting out videos soon that are coherent episodes, so I hope you look forward to those. Yep, Steve, thanks for listening. You stay safe as well. Have a good evening, and I'll catch you later. But appreciate you all for being here for the stream, and anybody rewatching. Thanks for watching through. I hope you're all doing well out there, and I will be checking your comments for what you have to say about anything that I brought up here in this chat. So I'm pretty happy about this kayaking stream setup. Seems to be doing pretty well. I think we might do this again in the future. Anyways, everybody stay safe out there.